Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have a little bit of a special review. This is going to be my Swedish National Day review 2020, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this will be my last Swedish National Day without being a citizen of Sweden. I've been here 5 years now and I'm hoping that Migrationsverket can process my application in time for Swedish National Day 2021. We'll just need to see about that. One of the things I've found about Sweden is that things work generally very well here, but it just takes quite a bit of time and things. There's lots of paperwork and stuff like that here, but generally speaking the country does seem to work pretty damn well actually. And you know, it's strange to think I've been here 5 years now. I've really enjoyed it. Sweden is home and I will be staying here in the long term. I'm very happy in Skåne in the south of the country, and yeah, you know, this is where I plan to settle longer term. Maybe I'll do a spell in a couple of different countries and things like that. You know, South America is definitely one still to explore. New Zealand, I'd like to spend a bit more time there, and obviously I probably will spend a bit of time in Japan at some point too. But longer term, Sweden is home. My Swedish language is coming on very well. You will see some Swedish language reviews at some point soon of some classic Swedish beers, and yeah, you know, very happy here. And we do plan to bring up our little guy here as well. We would like him to be schooled in Sweden, and yeah, we look forward to getting all the paperwork and stuff sorted out for that. But it's been a little bit of a difficult time with the whole Brexit thing and stuff like that, but yeah, once my 5-year point in Sweden is hit, then that solves a lot of issues. But yeah, it's been awesome to spend 5 years here in Sweden. So to all of you guys who are watching from Sweden, a very happy Swedish National Day 2020, and the support that you guys have given the channel over the last 5 years has been crazy. The level of Swedish support that the channel gets is just awesome. So yeah, it's been awesome. So from the bottom of my heart, a big thank you to you guys watching in Sweden, and a very happy National Day 2020. So yeah, for this review then, where better to go back to than the first Swedish craft brewery that I ever heard of. And I remember trying a couple of their beers in Glasgow at one of the bars actually. I think that was Hippo Beer Bar that I actually tried these beers in, if I remember correctly. So for this review we are going to go up to Stockholm once again, and we're having a look at another beer from Omnipollo. This one is the Bianca, which they're describing as a blueberry maple chocolate peanut butter pancake Lasse Gose, and it comes in at 7% ABV. So this beer was released through the Tillfälligsorten Systembolaget on the 2nd of June 2020. This is the second of the kind of Gose type beers that they've released, if I remember correctly. I missed out on the last one, which was the mango Lasse Gose, and I'm a bit gutted that I did miss out on that one, to be honest with you, because you know, afterwards I heard that it was a very good beer. I was almost put off getting this one because it was a little bit pricey. This one was like 110 kroners or something, so that translates roughly into like 9 British pounds, or you know, about 11 euros or something like that, so maybe like $12 US, somewhere along those lines. But yeah, this was quite an expensive beer, this one, but you know, it's a special day, it's Swedish National Day, and you know, it's a pretty random beer. I'm not going to have many more chances to try these Gose beers, I think, or this particular one. I don't know if these are one-offs or exactly what they are, but I just kind of thought, well, Swedish National Day, let's have a nice beer and see what this one's all about. And I really enjoyed the flashback that I had from these guys, which was a sweet porter, so I thought this one sounded very interesting as well. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. A 7% fruited random adjunct Gose from Omnipollo. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Omnipollo before. No doubt you will see some more added to that in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Omnipollo then, before we get on to tasting the beer. So Omnipollo, as I've told you before, were founded back in 2011 by Henrik Fenty, who's a long-time homebrewer, and Carl Grandin, who is a clothing designer. So the two just got talking one day about how insular the craft beer scene in Sweden was and further abroad, and so they decided they wanted to start a brewery because they say they wanted to reinvigorate the craft beer scene, both from a stylistic sense, from Carl's perspective, and from a gastronomic sense, from Henrik's perspective as well. And this is what these guys have become really known for, like the crazy artwork on their beers, which is designed by Carl, and then having these beers with lots of different adjuncts and flavour essences and things added into them. So they felt from the early days that the partnership between a home brewer and a designer was very logical, and it has worked out very, very well for them. These guys are probably the best known Swedish craft brewery these days. I think that's definitely a fair statement to say. But the name of the brewery is derived from omnipotent chicken, so Omnipollo, pollo Spanish for chicken, and these guys were gypsy brewers until 2020. They also have the Omnipollo's hat in Stockholm, which I think has been open since about 2014 or something like that. But this is a collaboration with Pizza Hat, and it's become quite popular in the city. You can get lots of nice Omnipollo beers on tap there that you won't find in other places, and it's also got very, very good pizza as well. I do need to get back there and film a little bit of an out and about video for you. I was there with my dad not so long ago, and it was very, very nice. But in 2019 they also opened up another bar in Hamburg down in Germany. They've got another bar in Gothenburg, which I think has been open for a little while as well. It's very close actually to the Bar Kino, the Haga Beyond's Cafe, the sort of unofficial tap room of Stig Bergets and OO Brewing. And they've also just opened up another bar in Tokyo in Japan as well, so I will need to go and check that one out the next time I'm in Tokyo. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but yeah, that's definitely on the cards. I'd love to open up a wee craft beer bar in Japan and serve some Swedish and Scottish beers. That would be awesome. But yeah, in March of 2020 these guys made the transition from being a gypsy brewery to being a regular brewery, if you like. So in March of 2020 they announced that they would open up their own brewery at Sundbyberg in a former church, and this had previously been occupied by Sundbyberg's Köksbryggeri, basically the Sundbyberg's kitchen brewery, if I'm translating that properly. But apparently the current brewing capacity there is around 100,000 litres of beer per year, but this is going to be scaled up to around 600,000 litres of beer per year very, very soon. So they've got lots of new equipment and things like that coming in. But as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 310 different beers. And as I've said to you, these guys are really known for putting random stuff in their beers. A lot of the brewing is done with flavour essences. You know, I've seen some of the flavour essences and things I think that they've used, but you know, it's a different art, it's a completely different style of brewing to put the flavour essences in it, but to also find a really, really nice base beer to work on top of. So, you know, Omnipollo do things very, very differently, but I think their beers do work out very, very nicely. They're probably most well known for the big imperial stouts that they do, the sort of cakey type ones, the Noah or the Aeon I believe it's called now. The Yellow Belly is another one. They also released their imperial porter recently, Lorelei, which is a very, very popular beer. Two of my favourites I think are the Fata Morgana, which is their New England IPA, which they did in the very, very early days of the whole haze craze, and also Nebuchadnezzar is a beautiful West Coast IPA. That's one of my favourite West Coast IPAs, I think, from Europe. So yeah, those two beers are definitely worth checking out as well, and those two kind of show you the Omnipollo. The thing is, when they do like a pure beer, if you like, a purely brewed beer, such as Fata Morgana or Nebuchadnezzar, you know, they are very, very capable in this regard as well. So it shows you just how good a brewer Henrik actually is. So yeah, a very, very nice brewery, this one, probably one of the best known, if not the best known Swedish craft brewery these days, and the first one that I ever kind of came across actually. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Omnipollo for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website. They've got a good list of all the different beers that they've done on there, but you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and things like that to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. The different bars have their own Facebook and Instagram feeds as well that you can check out, and of course you can look at the Untappd, Beer Advocate and Rate Beer pages to get more information on all the different beers that they've done. But as I say, the how do you say, the what do you call it, the website itself does actually have quite an extensive list and, you know, information section about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. So yeah, this can is a little bit bigger. This is a 1/2 litre can, which is kind of unusual for Omnipollo. I think even the Lucy Was the I forget, was the Lucy Hellas that I had, that they did with OO Brewing, was that in a half-litre can, or was that 440? I forget actually, but that's a lovely, lovely beer, the Lucy Hellas collaboration with OO Brewing. It's very, very authentic, so I would recommend that you check that one out as well. But yeah, the artwork on these beers is a little bit different, of course. I'm sure I've seen these released. These have been released a few times. I'm sure they were first released in bottles, and then of course they've been re-released in cans this time. But yeah, a half-litre can, and as I say, this one's described as a blueberry maple chocolate peanut butter pancake Lasse Gose, and it says that it contains peanuts and lactose sugar. So yeah, people that have allergies, this is a beer that you want to stay away from a little bit. But yeah, the Bianca 7% Gose. This one, Gose, of course, is a style of beer that originated in Germany, and it's usually, they add a little bit of salt to it, and they basically put it in the bottles and let it open ferment, and then the foam would kind of come out of the bottles. The history of the Gose style is quite interesting, but of course the modern craft breweries have put a lot of fruits and things like that on top of the Gose. The Berliner Weisse and the Gose seem to be the styles that are really experimented with when it comes to sour beers. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. A little bit, one of the more kind of plain artworks I think I've seen from Omnipollo before, but yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Then I'm very, very curious to see what this beer has in store, and I'll tell you straight away the aroma that comes out of this. Oh, look at that, the head wanted to escape, but yeah, the aroma that comes out of this is very, very nice. Look at that. It almost looks like it's kind of half stout or whatever. This is interesting. So it's very rare that you'll see a Gose this colour, I have to say. Usually the Gose is a blonde beer, but then when you've got all these different ingredients in it. So what I suspect is that this will be a combination. This will be a combination of actually adding fruit to the brew, and it will also be flavour essence and things in there. Otherwise they'd be using flavour essence and natural colours or something like this. But yeah, I'm not sure. They don't really tell you how they do their things, and obviously you can understand that because they don't want people kind of stealing their ideas. But there is quite a lot of craze around the whole kind of pastry stout thing, and Omnipollo, I guess, were the ones that really kind of started that off with these big sort of cakey type imperial stouts and things like that. And then you've got the likes of Amundsen and Lervig who've kind of jumped on later, and there's other breweries starting to have a go at it as well. But the pastry stouts are very, very popular in Scandinavia. It always amazes me here in Sweden, at least. They've got these huge big, sweet shops, the huge big candy shops, and you just wonder, how do more Swedes not have diabetes? They absolutely love sweets and things like this, and the amount of cake and stuff that we eat is just crazy. So yeah, I always wonder that in Sweden. Why do more people not have diabetes here? Because they've got such a sweet tooth, generally speaking. But yeah, look at this though. This is like, the colour of that head is just incredible. I don't think I've ever come across that in a beer review before, a head that is quite as purple as that. It's almost the same colour as like the Heart of Midlothian football strip, or probably a little bit more purple, to be honest with you. A lovely kind of almost indigo violet type thing actually. It's very, very nice. The colour of this beer, I think it's like an extremely dark purple. It's like black but with a kind of tinge of purple to it, to be honest with you. And you can see that when it poured. It's actually kind of similar in colour to the Flashback that I reviewed for you a couple of videos back. But yeah, this beer, it looks incredible. It doesn't look as I expected. I thought it might be more, a kind of brighter colour than this. But there, when it's got blueberry maple chocolate, I guess the chocolate and I guess the peanut, but the peanut butter is going to make it kind of hazy, but the chocolate is the thing that will probably make it dark. So probably this, I wonder if this has a mixture of, I wonder if it probably has a mixture of kind of real chocolate and a mixture of flavour essence and stuff in that, because Henrik, from what I gather, is quite he is quite pernickety with these recipes. He likes to make sure that they're right and things. But yeah, the colour of this one, I have to admit, really did surprise me. But you have to say it is pretty damn nice. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head, and the head is just fading away to be a very, very thin foamy layer. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. I think this is going to be ridiculous. One of these things, where you can say it smells exactly as it says as it should on the tin. That's it. It really does smell exactly as it says. You know, you do get some really funky aromas out of some beers and things like that, but this one smells exactly the way they're saying on the tin. So yeah, a blueberry, maple chocolate, peanut butter, pancake, Lasse, Gose. Don't get so much of the Lasse, in fairness. That's the thing, but maybe we'll get a bit more of that as we smell later on. But yeah, straight away with this one, you can smell the pancakes and the sort of maple syrup. That's the first thing that jumps out of this one at me. It was the pancakes and the maple syrup just forming the backbone of the beer. The more and more that I smell of it, that I start to get some of the chocolate out of it. I would say the chocolate's kind of in the middle of the spectrum, you know, a sort of 60% cocoa level chocolate. You do get that out of it, and you can smell the peanut butter too. The peanut butter, it seems the peanut butter and the pancakey notes seem to kind of merge together actually, so it's really interesting how you've got that sort of thing going on with this beer. So the pancakes almost smell like quite nutty, to be honest with you. So yeah, the base of this beer is, yeah, you've got the pancakey notes, you've got the yeah, you've got the pancakey base to it, the nutty notes kind of going in there. You can smell that sort of light, nice brown sugar from the maple syrup in there. It smells lovely. This is a really beautiful smelling beer, I have to say. I really like how this one goes together. It smells quite different from the other Omnipollos that I've had before, right enough. So I really love how this one goes together. Yeah, I really like how this one. I really like how it goes together. This is the aroma. This is very, very nice. Yeah, you can smell a little bit of an almost saltiness to it from the Gose. I do find that you get a little bit of that kind of saltiness from it. It smells more kind of sweet rather than anything, but you can detect some of the kind of citrusy, grassy notes to it. So in some ways that's good, because it does let you know this is a Gose beer. It does have a little bit of that kind of zesty, salty type thing that you expect of the Gose style. You can kind of get that towards the front of the nose, but then it's got everything else that you kind of expect from it. I have to admit, I don't get too much of the Lasse. I do love a good Lasse when I have Indian food, you know, the nice kind of big Indian yogurt drink. I really, really like that actually. But the yeah, the aroma that comes out of this beer, I think, is absolutely awesome. Yeah, I really like how this goes together. Actually, the aroma is just great. Take a bit of time and enjoy this one, because it's a very, very unusual aroma. To me, it comes across as a very kind of cakey sort of ale beer, but you do, as I say, you've got that kind of salty, citrusy, zesty thing to let you know this is a Gose. I need to try a few more of the original Goses from Germany. You've seen me try the Ritterguts Gose, which is one of the old recipe ones in Germany. So if you're interested in what an original Gose is like, do go and check out my Ritterguts review that I did from Germany maybe about a year ago, I think it is now. But yeah, that's a top class beer, that one. But these modern Goses are quite interesting. I need to review more of the kind of modern Goses for you here on the channel, because this is something that has been neglected a little bit. But the blueberries that come out of this one are they come across as very, very juicy. They've got a little bit of tartness to them, but yeah, they're mainly kind of juicy blueberries, actually, come to think of it. So that's a really kind of interesting point to make about this beer. It's a really interesting, very juicy blueberry aroma. You've got some of the citrusy, zesty saltiness that you expect of the Gose, and you've also got that big kind of cakey backbone to the beer as well, which is really interesting. So yeah, one of the more curious aromas I've come across in a beer over the last little while, but I'm very, very curious just to see what this one tastes like now. So let's go for it. This one is the Bianca, a blueberry, maple, chocolate, peanut butter, pancake, Lasse, Gose. Don't get so much of the Lasse, but everything else you can detect in this one. But yeah, a 7% beer from Omnipollo here in Sweden. A very happy Swedish National Day 2020. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Ooh. That's really interesting. That it starts off, yeah, it starts off very, very sweet and very juicy, but then you feel the saltiness and stuff coming out of it later. It's interesting that, because in the aroma you really get the impression that these, you know, the chocolate, the peanut butter, the pancakes and stuff like that, and the maple syrup, you get the impression that these are going to be really, really prominent in the beer, but they actually, they come out in the aftertaste. So this beer's all about the transitions. As I've told you before, when it comes to sour beers, I don't know if you can technically term this a sour beer. It's more of a sweet beer, to be honest with you. But the transitions that this beer makes is really interesting. So you take it in and it's very sort of sharp and sweet and juicy. Then it becomes, you know, a little bit more salty. You start to get more of the kind of saltiness and things out of it. You know, it's saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm very, very kind of sweet and things." Then you get the kind of saltiness, "I am a Gose," and then when you go further into the aftertaste, you start to get the kind of chocolatey thing. So in the middle of your palate, in the aftertaste, that's when you really get some of these darker, cakier flavours coming out of the beer. Yeah, I really like how this one um, goes together. This is definitely one of the quirkier beers I've had from Omnipollo, and I'm a bit disappointed in myself for not trying some of these earlier on, because when I've tried the Omnipollo beers, I have tended to stick to the more, almost to the more kind of purist things, if you like, because I liked Nebuchadnezzar and I liked Fata Morgana outside the lines that they did with Trillium. The Imperial Stout was another one that kind of made me stick to that as well. But yeah, I have to say this really is an awesome beer. So well done to Omnipollo for this. They've done a great job of this beer. So yeah, when you take this beer in, it's very, very juicy, and there's lots and lots of blackberries to it. Or blueberries, sorry, I should say, not blackberries, and you get a really lovely tartness to it. You can feel the tartness of the beer just kind of coming out the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. But just after you take the beer in, you can feel the whole top of your tongue is very, very kind of juicy, and you start to get the saltiness. You do get a little bit of that saltiness that you expect of the Gose just coming out from that as well. At the front of your palate you start to get a wee bit of a kind of grassy, citrusy zestiness as well, but then after you've taken a few sips of this, the dark backbone of this beer really starts to come out actually, which is interesting. It really is a lot darker than I was thinking it would be, to be honest with you. This beer really has a lot of contrast, as I say in the beginning, very, very sweet and juicy, then it gets a bit salty, and then it really is dark and almost really roasty. It comes across like a very, very high percentage cocoa. It's got a good bit of bitterness in the final. If you go to the back, the final third of your tongue, and then it almost kind of pushes forward into the middle third of your tongue as well. But you really do have a very dark, bitter, dark chocolatey note out of this beer at the back. It's almost a little touch black malty as well, which is interesting. But if you go, so the back third of your palate is mainly dark and kind of roasty, but at the same time there is a degree of kind of smoothness to it. It's almost got the same kind of consistency as like a really well fired brownie, but as you go to the middle of the palate you can feel that's where the other things are coming out, and it almost feels very layered and how it goes together. So you get in the middle third of your palate, and as you progress into the aftertaste, you get the sort of pancakey base, you get the kind of maple syrupy notes and the nuttiness mixing in with that as well, and you do get some of the bitter kind of chocolatey notes sitting on top of that too. So the middle of the palate I think is very layered. Pancakes, nuts kind of mixed into that, the maple syrupy brown sugars, I think as you move further out towards the edge of the palate, in the centre of your tongue, I think you get a little bit more of the maple syrup, and almost if you go behind the front corners of your palate, just inward a little bit, that's where the brown sugars sit. But you've also got in the very centre of your tongue, you've got quite a bitter chocolatey note out of this one. As I say, a sort of 90-ish% cocoa. Really, it's maybe one of the most bitter chocolates I've come across in a beer actually. So it's really interesting that you can have such contrast in this beer, but that describes the kind of malty backbone of the beer. I have to say with this one, I don't get so much of the Lasse part of this. Maybe in the beginning, you know, the sort of is it kind of creamy in the beginning, because Lasse is always quite creamy, to be honest. Yeah, in fairness, in the beginning, yeah. the sweetness that you get out of it, I could say that that's that I can see why they would say that that's Lasse. Yeah, that didn't come out so much in the aroma, I have to say. But yeah, when you take the sweetness in, you will notice that it is a little bit kind of creamy. And yeah, you know, this is one of these beers. I love the contrast that this one has. As I say, for me, sour beers generally are not the most kind of complex things, and as I say, I really don't know whether you should term this a sour beer or a sweet beer, but what I can tell you is that it's pretty bloody awesome. And the next time they're releasing one of these Lasse Gose beers, I will definitely be reviewing that for you, because this has been one of my more quirky reviews, I think, in recent times. But yeah, I really like the contrast that this has, that really dark backbone and then the sweetness in the beginning and then the little bit of saltiness too. This is an awesome beer. It is a bit more pricey, but if you want something like really kind of out there and quirky, then I do recommend that you have a go at this. The hoppy side of the beer then, Goses of course aren't too known for being so hoppy and things, but I think there is a wee bit of hoppy character to this one. You do get a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you do get a little, there is a wee tiny touch of floral note there. Then around the very front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy and things like that, but the hops are quite minimal on this one. I would suspect that maybe they're just using a wee touch of, you know, Hallertau or Tettnanger or something like that. One of the other German hop varieties, Hercules, Pearl, you know, they might be using a little bit of that in here, but the earthiness out of this one is actually quite strong, so it could be a little bit of like Summit, or maybe they could have even used Eureka. If I remember rightly, I discovered the Eureka hop recently, which has some lovely kind of berryish notes. That could be another option here. But yeah, the hoppy side of the beer does give you just a little touch of bitterness. The beer is actually quite bitter from the chocolatey malts that I was talking about as well, which is interesting. But yeah, when you take this beer in, you get a lot of juicy sweetness out of this one. Like I say, the blueberries in this one, they've got such a level of juiciness. I think this is maybe a combination of flavour essence and actual blueberries. I think the sourness that you get out of this one is natural, but I think there is a little bit of flavour essence added into it to kind of make the sweetness a little bit more round, because the thing is, you don't get that almost kind of fluffy, brambly type flavour that you would if it was just pure blueberries, because when you have berries, they always have a little bit of a kind of almost brambly type flavour to them, and you really don't get that in this beer. So that makes me suspect there is a wee bit of flavour essence at play here as well. But when you take this beer in, so you get those blueberries, you do get a lovely bit of sharpness to it, then the whole top of your palate just juices out, you start to feel the saltiness, and then very quickly the middle of your palate just dries out and you get all those other more kind of cakey flavours and stuff like that, chocolatey and cakey flavours that I was talking about earlier. But at the front part of your palate, this is where the fruits really come out. So yeah, on the front edge of your tongue, it's lovely and juicy, and the kind of tartness to it really offers a very nice contrast as well. So I really do like how this beer goes together. The fruitiness of the beer, I think, is really very nice. It's a lot different from what I thought. I mean, I thought this beer, I didn't expect it to be quite so dark. I don't know if can you term this like a black Gose or something? I really didn't expect this beer to lean so much towards the dark end of the spectrum. I thought it was going to be more like kind of bready. I really thought this would be quite a very, very kind of bready type beer rather than being so dark, if that makes sense. But it's been a really nice surprise, and as I say, the thing that you get out of this is just the sheer contrast that you get to the different parts of the beer is incredible actually. I really like how this one goes together, so it gets a massive thumbs up from me. The juiciness of the blueberries and the kind of tartness you get out of it, the bit of saltiness that lets you know this is a Gose, and then you've got that really interesting kind of backbone to the beer. But yeah, the further you go into the aftertaste, the back of your tongue gets a bit drier, the fruitiness lingers there. There is a wee bit of the saltiness starts to rear its head as well, and you've got that kind of layered thing in the middle, the pancakes, the nutty notes from the peanut butter, and then the bit of the maple syrup in there. It's got everything. It does have everything that it says on the tin there, and you get a bit of the kind of lassie, the lactosey type quality at the beginning of the beer as well. But a beautiful beer, this one, and I do recommend that you have a try this one, particularly if you want something rather quirky. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, this is quite I'd say, I mean, it's not, I'd say this is at the top end of mid-bodied. I think it's kind of around there. I don't think it's quite full-bodied, but then a Gose is not meant to be the thickest of beers. So yeah, I would say that it's kind of top end of mid-bodied, this one. Carbonation is very smooth, and I would say that overall the mouthfeel, it's got an element of creaminess to it. It's also got an element of dryness to it because of the bitterness and things that it has. So yeah, this one, I'd say it's got a little bit of wetness. You know, it's a well balanced mouthfeel. I think it's fair to say that. In terms of the IBUs and stuff out of this one, I wouldn't be surprised if you could say this beer actually does have maybe around a 30 or 40 IBU mark. It's definitely very bitter at the back of the palate, kind of to the tune. I would go as far as saying that the back of the palate is maybe like over 50 IBUs from some of the dark malty notes there, but I think overall the beer is very sweet. But I wouldn't be surprised if this beer does have a significant IBU, 50 or 60 IBUs perhaps from the darker side of things. So that's an interesting point to make about it. You've got a lovely juicy sweetness to this one. It does get a little bit tart as well, a bit of saltiness, which is what you expect from the Gose. And in the middle of the palate you've got a kind of roasty toasty base to it, but you've got a nice kind of smoothness and sweetness in there as well. But yeah, the malt base and the kind of centre of your palate, the backbone of the beer, is pretty dark and roasty and toasty and things. So yeah, just a very, very quirky beer, this one. It's very difficult to describe it to you. You really need to try this for yourself and just and see how you get on. This has been one of the most quirky beers I think that I've ever reviewed on the channel for you, and I think it's very fitting to have something like this for Swedish National Day 2020. This has taken me a bit longer to describe this one, so this is probably quite a long review, but I hope that it's helped you guys to, you know, get your head around this one a little bit as well. And you know, this is one that I've really enjoyed reviewing, so you will see more of these Gose beers from Omnipollo reviewed over the next little while. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Bianca, a blueberry, maple, chocolate, peanut butter, pancake, Lasse Gose at 7% ABV, pardon me, from Omnipollo in Sundbyberg in Stockholm here in Sweden. And a really very, very quirky beer, and one that I recommend that you try for yourself. As I said earlier, a huge thank you to all of you guys watching the channel, and especially to those of you watching in Sweden. A very happy National Day 2020, and as I say, I look forward to National Day 2021 when I will also have my Swedish citizenship as well, fingers crossed. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Omnipollo as well, and we will most definitely return to these guys in the very near future. This one was the Bianca at 7% ABV from Omnipollo in Stockholm here in Sweden. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, cheers.